Today is December 31st, the last day of the year. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my year 2025. These are 5 questions about my year to help me review, which I'm going to be answering. And if you're watching this, you can play along. You can think about your own answers to these questions. As it's the last day of the year, I think many people get very contemplative. You're looking back at your year and you're thinking, what did I do right? What could I have done differently? What lessons did I learn which I can take forward for the year 2026? I had to think for a second there. Is next year 2026? Time flies. Anyway, I think I got it right. This year for me was the fastest year ever. Not my best year, not my worst year, but it flew past. So without further ado, we're going to be breaking down those 5 questions to help me review the year, and you can play along, as I said, answer those questions for yourselves. Question number 1 is, what was your biggest accomplishment this year? Now, for me, one of the most obvious things I can share, if I had to say what my biggest accomplishment was, is something I'm actually not that proud of. So if I was speaking publicly, I would say that I managed to grow my TikTok account from 500 to over 200,000 followers in 3 months. For me, that is actually quite interesting, quite commendable, considering the way my year started. Because January 4th, I was robbed. And having your phone stolen is not the best thing that can happen to you. But in this particular occasion, I had been filming for about 2-3 months. I was filming a video called I Spoke to 100 Strangers in Brazil. So I had all this wonderful footage, interviews with couples, with women who were expecting, who were pregnant. They were expecting their children to come along any moment. People sharing their secrets, their happiest moments, and all of that was lost. I know, it's my fault. I should have been careful, I should have backed up, but I lost all of these beautiful moments, all these beautiful videos, and that's gone forever. Nowhere to be recovered, no backups. So considering the way my year started, the fact that I was still able to accomplish something in terms of social media by growing my TikTok from 500 to 200,000 is not bad, not bad. Now, the way I did this was I had this TikTok profile for 2 years already, never really posted. I had 500 followers, but once I started to post 3 times a day, one of my videos exploded. It went to, I think, 6 million views, and that brought in 200,000 followers over the next couple of weeks. What I'm actually most proud of is actually quite boring. It's not something that you would care about unless you're really interested in online marketing. And I was able to take my first few steps in this regard and grow my business, not just by posting, but by running online promotions. So trying something new in online marketing and seeing my first few results is what I'm most proud of. Question number 2, what was your biggest mistake in 2025? What would you do differently? What would you have changed? What can you learn from? I have a couple here. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably look back and you think there's so much you would change. It's hard to choose one. The first thing is I would have tried not to get robbed in Brazil on the 4th day of the year. For me, the way you start your year is very important. You want to start with positivity, with your plans, with ambition, and believing that you can get anything done. And as I mentioned, I had been recording for 3 months, and then I just had all that footage lost, stolen from me. I was walking down the street, someone grabbed my phone. I actually chased them, but they had a bicycle, so they cycled off. It was actually like an action film because they were cycling through traffic. I'm chasing this person with my backpack. You cannot outrun, you cannot catch up to someone who's speeding away on a bicycle. Trust me, I tried. So thankfully, I've learned my lesson. Always back up your file, have backup equipment. I felt like I was invincible. I felt like I couldn't be robbed, but no one's untouchable. Something else I would have done differently this year. This one's mixed because there were benefits to it. I would not have spent a lot of my time in London. London is great in summer. London really is a place to go when it's nice, it's sunny, you're working there, and you have friends, you have a network, you have reasons to be there. But if you're someone who's international and you can be anywhere, me personally, I wouldn't choose London. I'm sorry if that offends any of my guys out there in England. Beautiful place, I love it. But up to me, I would just head there for summer, have fun, get work done, and then leave. The cold, the darkness, even the prices and the crime now, not for me. But having said all this, the biggest mistake that I made is what I'm rectifying right now. The fact that I did not get started on YouTube. Every single year, there's something that takes my focus off of YouTube. I've grown on Instagram, I've grown on TikTok, but I've never really sat down and just focused on YouTube. And that's one thing I wish I would have done differently. That is number one for me. Of all the ways to grow online, there's no competition. YouTube is the best by miles. One of the reasons for me why I'm focusing on YouTube, and I'll go into details on this in a different video, is it is a win-win. Let's say you post on Instagram for months, for weeks, for years, and you have no results. You don't grow in terms of your followers or engagement. You still have nothing. But with YouTube, for me, I'm basically just having fun and documenting my life. My idea on this is in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years, I can look back on my YouTube channel, even if I never get a single follower, and I can experience my life again. I can go on those holidays. I can see those business challenges. I can see the emotions, the friendships that I had. So it's a way to relive my past, to go through those beautiful and challenging moments again. With short form, with social media on TikTok and Instagram, you can't really go into that much depth. So it's not the same as keeping a journal of your life, of your goals, of your business. What about you? What was your biggest mistake? Was it that girl that you went on a date with? Was it that night that you went out and partied too hard? What was it? Let me know in the comments below. My happiest moment of 2025. That's a great question, because this year I was so focused, and that was actually a mistake I should have mentioned, is I did not focus enough on fun and happiness. Despite all my focus, I still managed to be happy and have fun quite a few times. For me, the most interesting thing about this question is, as I grow older, I appreciate time with my family even more. My parents, my sisters, extended family. So the happiest moments for me this year where when I traveled to be with family, weddings, special events. We had weddings in the family, and on one of those weddings, I was actually the officiator, not in a religious sense because I'm not a priest, I'm not a pastor, but I guided the audience through the events, told a few jokes, a few stories, entertained everyone. I am a public speaker, I am a public speaking coach. So this is something I managed to do a great job with, according to everyone who was there anyway. But for me, that whole experience of being around family, so many events, going paintballing with the grandkids, going to birthday parties, every single moment, catching up with everyone, that for me was the most beautiful part of 2025. And in 2026, I am looking to double down, triple down on that. Make sure I have it set in my agenda that for weeks, for months, I'm going to be with family and run my business on the side and just experience these moments with everyone. That's something I'm looking forward to in 2026. Question number 4. What was the best movie? What was the best film I watched in 2025? Now, you probably weren't expecting that question. Only productive questions, only deep questions, you thought. But no, I like to watch films. I like to escape, especially when I'm very focused. And this year was the most focused year ever. I literally was in only two places, at my desk or at the gym. So watching films from time to time was a way to unwind. And what was my favorite film this year? There are quite a few that I saw. Here are some special mentions. I watched The Long Walk. I think it's a Stephen King adaptation of these kids just walking across America, and then you interpret, what does this mean? What is the metaphor here? What about motivation, not giving up? It was a good film. It was a good escape for an hour or so. Thunderbolts. I love this film. Marvel has not been on the best run, and people love to hate. People love to hate. But I can understand, they haven't had the best films in a while. But Thunderbolt, which didn't actually perform that well, was a great film. It was a great film. If you love, what is it called? If you love Fight Club, if you love these mental films, mindset films, then this is one that you will like. Especially if you like superhero stuff as well, but this was one I liked. Honestly, there is a recurring theme in movies that I enjoy, which is just not giving up, just continuing to fight, having hope, believing anything is possible, and just constantly taking action. Those are the kind of films I love. Having said that, my favorite film this year was The Gorge. Miles Teller and, what's her name from The Queen's Gambit? What's her name from The Queen's Gambit? Anna Taylor-Joy, I think. Yes, Anna Taylor-Joy. Miles Teller. Speaking about films about motivation, Miles Teller has been in two great films that teach you not to give up. One is Whiplash. That's one of my all-time favorite films. And the second is Bleed for This. So you can tell by his choice of films, his choice of roles, this is a motivated guy, this is an inspired guy. And Anna Taylor-Joy, she's a great actress. People like to watch her, should I say, politely. But what I loved about The Gorge is not really a film about motivation or inspiration. It's not some film about a guy who climbed a mountain or achieved, it's fantasy, okay? It's fantasy. But for me, it was done so well. It was switching genres every 20 minutes. You didn't really know what to expect. So if you think it's a romantic film, it's not just that. If you think it's science fiction, it's not just that. It even goes almost military at points. The tone switches constantly, but it keeps you engaged. That was what I loved about this. And aside from that, this was a point where I was not having fun in life. So it just took me away from everything that was going on. For some reason, I just kept thinking back to that moment where I watched this movie, and it really just uplifted me the rest of the year. So great job to the director of The Gorge. So the final question for me is, what was your biggest lesson in 2025? What was the thing you would have done differently? What did you learn? This year, my aunt said something as I was leaving. She said, "You lived a sad life this year." As I've mentioned a couple times, this year, I was focused. I did not see my friends very often. I think I saw them 2-3 times. I saw my family twice. I basically was working or I was working out. I remember the year based on locations, and I was only in 3 places: at my desk, traveling for family, and at the gym. Those were the only 3 places I went this year. But here's the lesson. Despite all the focus, despite reducing how much fun I was willing to have, I didn't really feel like I accomplished that much more than other years where I actually had fun. So the lesson for me, what I would have done differently, is pursue happily. It's okay to be focused. It's great to be focused, but don't do it so deeply that you kill all the fun, that you don't connect with people, that you don't go out and do things that make you happy. That's what I would have told myself. So for me in 2026, I actually will plan for this. I'm going to plan to have way more fun. I have a list of things I want to get done, places I would love to travel to, people to catch up with, experiences to have. I'm not going to rob myself of these experiences. And that for me is a big reason why I'm going to be focusing on YouTube. Because with YouTube, as I'm having experiences, I can document those. If I travel, if I have fun, I can film it, I can record it, and that takes care of not just fun, but business, because as I'm growing on YouTube, I am growing my business. I am speaking to people. I am building a following. So, long story short, my biggest lesson that I'm taking forward for 2026 is pursue happily, chase your goals, chase your dreams, take action, but don't forget to have fun along the way. That's actually how you're going to have some great ideas, creativity to help you achieve your goals. All right, so that has been my 2025 in review in 5 questions. Again, you guys can answer these questions for yourselves. Leave your answers in the comments below. I would love to see what you think. And I'm back on YouTube. I'm going to be focused. So subscribe so you can get notifications on all my new videos. If you're someone who wants to create, if you want to speak out, to grow your business, or just to share your life, and you have any questions, you don't feel confident, then this is the place to be. I'm going to be sharing all my tips on how to build your confidence, to speak in life, in real life, but also to share videos online. So stay tuned, subscribe, and see you guys in the next one.